The first strike, the emergence of the Empire. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly in every direction. The Aurora, a small but mighty warship, sat silently in the darkness. The crew aboard it knew the odds. They were against an enemy so powerful that it seemed impossible to win. But they also knew one thing: humanity had never been known to back down from a challenge. Captain Leela Carter stood on the bridge, staring out at the stars. Her hands were clenched into fists, but her face remained calm. The alien fleet, led by the aggressive Salaf Empire, was coming. It was a fleet unlike any the humans had ever faced. Hundreds of ships, all heavily armed, stretching across the black sky like a sea of darkness, and only one human warship stood between them and total annihilation. "Captain, the fleet is getting closer," said Lieutenant Marcus, his voice steady but full of concern. He was a veteran of many battles, but even he could feel the weight of the situation. "I know," Captain Carter replied, "but we're not backing down. Not this time." Her voice echoed with quiet determination. She trusted her crew, and they trusted her. The Aurora wasn't just a ship. It was a symbol of human willpower and defiance. That Salaf had come to crush them, but they didn't know what they were up against. The alien ships were now in view, and their sheer size made the Aurora feel like an ant in comparison. The Salaf Empire had no respect for any species except their own. They had wiped out countless civilizations in their quest for domination, leaving nothing but ashes in their wake. But the humans weren't just going to give up. "Prepare for battle stations," Captain Carter ordered, her voice firm. The crew scrambled into action, moving with practiced efficiency. Weapons were checked, shields were powered up, and every man and woman aboard the Aurora knew their role in what was about to unfold. Lieutenant Marcus turned to the captain, his eyes narrow with concern. "Are you sure about this, Captain? We are outnumbered. The fleet has weapons capable of destroying us in seconds. If we go head-to-head, we don't stand a chance." Captain Carter looked him in the eyes, her gaze unwavering. "We don't need to go head-to-head. We fight smart. The Aurora may be small, but we have the advantage of speed and surprise. We'll use the enemy's overconfidence against them." A plan was set in motion, one that hinged on taking the first strike and hitting the aliens where they least expected it. They would have to act fast, and they would have to be precise. The alien fleet moved in formation, their massive ships blocking out the stars like dark giants. It wasn't just a show of strength, it was intimidation. They wanted the humans to know how hopeless their situation was. But they didn't realize one key fact. The humans had something they didn't, an unbreakable will. "Target the lead ship," Captain Carter commanded. "Make sure we hit them hard and fast. We can't waste time." As the Aurora powered up its engines, the crew felt the adrenaline surge through their bodies. This wasn't just a battle for survival, it was a battle for the future of humanity. The enemy was bigger, stronger, and more advanced, but the humans had something the aliens would never understand: resilience. The Aurora suddenly broke from its position, zipping forward at full speed. It was a blur of motion, small yet agile, darting through the space between the ships of the enemy. The Salaf ships were slow to react, their sensors unable to track the Aurora as it weaved through them. The first shot fired by the Aurora was precise. A powerful burst of energy streaked across the dark void and slammed into the side of the alien flagship. The explosion was massive. It rocked the alien ship, causing it to shudder and veer off course. For a moment, everything was silent. The crew of the Aurora held their breath, watching as the alien fleet scrambled to react. They hadn't expected this. The humans had struck first, and now the element of surprise was on their side. "They're reeling," Lieutenant Marcus reported, his voice tense with excitement. "We've got them off balance." Captain Carter smiled, but there was no time to waste. "Keep the pressure on them. Don't give them time to regroup." The Aurora fired again, this time hitting another alien vessel, sending it spiraling out of control. The once unified alien fleet was now in chaos, their formation falling apart as they tried to fight back. But the Aurora was too quick. The humans had learned from their past mistakes. They knew that if they let the aliens get comfortable, they would be overwhelmed. The first strike had created confusion, and now was their chance to take full advantage of it. One by one, the alien ships fell, each one slower to respond as their command structure collapsed. The Aurora darted in and out of the battlefield, always staying one step ahead, always moving too fast for the aliens to keep up. Each successful hit was a victory, a reminder that the human spirit could never be underestimated. But Captain Carter knew this was just the beginning. The alien fleet wasn't defeated yet, and there was still much to do. They had shown the Soloth Empire that the humans were not easy prey, but the true test was yet to come. "Keep moving," Captain Carter ordered. "We've only just begun." As the battle raged on, one thing became clear: the humans would never surrender. And the Soloth Empire would learn the hard way that a single warship, no matter how humble, could destroy an entire fleet. The alien overconfidence. The Aurora was a blur of motion, dancing around the alien ships with incredible precision. The enemy had been caught off guard, their fleets scattered and confused. But Captain Carter knew this victory wouldn't last long. It was only the beginning. "Target the mid-range ships next," Captain Carter ordered, her voice calm but filled with intensity. "We need to cripple their firepower before they regroup." The crew responded instantly, each person knowing their role in this crucial moment. The Aurora was fast, small, and adaptable, but it was still vastly outgunned by the alien fleet. Every move had to be calculated, every strike executed with pinpoint accuracy. As the Aurora veered around the massive alien warships, Lieutenant Marcus's voice broke through the tension. "Captain, we're taking hits. Shields are holding, but the energy levels are dropping fast." Captain Carter's eyes never left the tactical display. "Keep focused, Marcus. We've taken their first punch. Now it's time to deliver ours." The alien ships, now disorganized and unsure of how to respond, fired back. Their weapons were powerful, but the Aurora was too quick to be an easy target. The humans' tactics were unconventional, and the aliens couldn't adapt fast enough. Each time they fired, the Aurora darted to another position, using the debris from destroyed enemy ships as cover. On the bridge, Lieutenant Tessa, the communications officer, scanned the enemy transmissions. "They're panicking, Captain. They've lost their lead ship, and their command structure is in chaos. It's a perfect opening." But the aliens weren't completely helpless. Their fleet was vast, and they had numbers on their side. As the Aurora continued its assault, a larger ship, much more advanced than the others, moved into position. A new command flagship. The alien forces were regrouping, reorganizing under a new, more calculating leader. "Incoming." Massive energy signatures. Lieutenant Marcus shouted as the new flagship powered up its main cannon. The crew braced for impact, the hull of the Aurora vibrating as the energy blast ripped through space. The ship's shields flared up, absorbing most of the damage. But it was clear they couldn't take too many more hits like that. "Captain, we need to pull back, or we'll be destroyed," Marcus pleaded, his face tense. "The fleet's recalibrated, and they're targeting our weak spots." Captain Carter's eyes burned with determination. "We're not running. We're going to use this to our advantage. They think they've got us cornered. Let's make them regret it." The Aurora juked left, then right, avoiding another barrage of enemy fire. As the alien fleet closed in, Aurora's crew began to enact a daring new plan. The captain ordered them to use the remnants of destroyed ships, broken fragments of enemy vessels, and even asteroid debris as shields and projectiles. "Deploy the debris," Captain Carter commanded. The crew followed her orders, and soon, the Aurora was launching large pieces of space debris at the enemy fleet. These impromptu projectiles flew through the vastness of space, colliding with the alien ships and causing chaos. The Soloth fleet wasn't prepared for this kind of guerrilla warfare. Their highly advanced ships were designed for large-scale battles, not for dealing with unpredictable human tactics. Direct hit on the enemy flagship. Lieutenant Marcus reported, his voice tinged with disbelief. The aliens had never seen anything like this before. They were used to overwhelming their enemies with sheer numbers and firepower, not dodging debris from destroyed ships or having to rethink their strategy every few minutes. Captain Carter smiled, but it was a smile of war. "We've only just started, Marcus. Keep them on their toes. Let them know what happens when they underestimate humanity." The alien fleet, now on the back foot, started to show signs of disarray. The flagship, though still operational, was struggling to regain control over its forces. The Tsalith Empire had been accustomed to total dominance in their conquests, but the Aurora was showing them that humans weren't just fighters. They were survivors. With each passing minute, the Tsalith Empire was losing control. The alien fleet began to scatter, firing blindly into the dark as the Aurora danced around them. The crew of the Aurora was tired, yes, but their resolve was stronger than ever. The aliens had come with overconfidence, believing they could wipe out humanity without much effort. They had underestimated the power of a single warship, and now they were paying the price. But the battle was far from over. The Tsalith Empire wasn't going to give up so easily, and Captain Carter knew that. She could feel the eyes of the enemy fleet on her, waiting for her next move. The humans had won the first round, but the real test would come soon. As the Aurora darted through the battlefield once more, Captain Carter made a silent vow. The warship would never surrender, and neither would humanity. The turning point: humanity's ingenuity. The Aurora zipped through the void of space, a blur of light and energy, evading fire from the now scattered but still dangerous Tsalith fleet. But the crew knew that they couldn't rely on speed forever. The Tsalith Empire, although disoriented, was regrouping fast. They had been thrown into chaos, but they weren't out of the fight yet. It was only a matter of time before their new command flagship took full control and organized the fleet for a counterattack. Captain Carter stood at the bridge's helm, her mind racing. "We can't keep running, and we can't keep hiding behind debris. We need to take them out now while we have the advantage." Lieutenant Marcus turned to her, his brow furrowed in concern. "But, Captain, they're regrouping, and their firepower is more than we can handle. We need to think of something unexpected, a way to stop them before they get organized." Carter's eyes gleamed with a focused intensity. She had seen this before. She knew the value of human ingenuity in the face of overwhelming odds. The Aurora was outgunned, but it was not outsmarted. "Bring up the tactical analysis," Captain Carter ordered. The crew worked quickly to display the Tsalith fleet's weak points on the main screen. The alien ships had advanced technology, but their systems were not infallible. There were vulnerabilities, and Carter knew they had to exploit them. After a few moments of silence, she spotted it: a critical flaw. The alien flagship was shielded by a powerful barrier, but the Tsalith ship's communication systems were relying heavily on one single relay station located near the center of their formation. If they could disable that station, it would cause a massive breakdown in their fleet's coordination, leaving them exposed and unable to communicate effectively. "Marcus, Tessa, get me the coordinates for that relay station. We're going to take it out, and we're going to do it before they realize what's happening." The crew nodded in unison, moving with urgency. The Tsalith fleet was still trying to reorganize, and they had no idea what was coming. They were confident that their overwhelming numbers would eventually win the day, but they were underestimating humanity's resourcefulness. "Coordinates locked, Captain," Lieutenant Tessa reported. "Ready to fire when you are." Carter's voice was steady but filled with determination. "Target the relay station and fire everything we've got. Don't give them a second to react." In a split second, the Aurora fired, sending an array of energy blasts streaking toward the Tsalith communication relay. The beam struck the station with pinpoint accuracy, sending a shockwave through the alien fleet. For a moment, The entire battle seemed to pause. Then, chaos erupted. The alien fleet, which had been organized and well coordinated, was suddenly thrown into disarray. Their communication systems were down. Ships were unable to synchronize their movements. Commanders were unable to issue orders to their forces. The Aurora had delivered a crippling blow to the heart of their power. "Direct hit, Captain. The relay's been destroyed," Lieutenant Marcus exclaimed, his voice filled with excitement. "They can't communicate. Their fleet's falling apart." Captain Carter didn't take her eyes off the display. The tide had turned, and the enemy was now vulnerable. But she knew they couldn't rest yet. This was their chance, and they had to strike hard. "Now, we press forward. We use their chaos against them," Carter ordered. The Aurora darted back into the fray, now targeting individual ships that were struggling to reorganize. The aliens, confused and unable to communicate, fell one by one. The crew's morale soared. They could feel it now. The victory was within their grasp. The Aurora was smaller and weaker in terms of firepower, but the humans' ingenuity and the will to survive had given them the upper hand. The aliens had underestimated them, and now they were paying the price. But even as the Solith fleet fell into disarray, a new threat loomed on the horizon. The flagship of the Solith Empire, the ship that had been silent until now, began to power up. It was larger than any of the other ships and had an array of weapons far more advanced. It wasn't just a command ship. It was a weapon of mass destruction. "Captain, the flagship is preparing to fire," Lieutenant Tessa warned. Captain Carter's heart raced as she saw the massive weapon charging up, a powerful beam of energy that could obliterate the Aurora in a single shot. The Aurora was fast, but this was a different kind of firepower. If they didn't act quickly, it would all be over. "Brace for impact," Carter shouted. The entire ship trembled as the alien flagship released its deadly beam. It streaked toward the Aurora, a blinding flash of light that could tear the warship apart. But Captain Carter wasn't about to give up. She'd led her crew through too much to lose now. "Engage evasive maneuvers. Full power to shields," she commanded. The Aurora swerved at the last moment, narrowly avoiding the beam that slammed into the space around them, sending shockwaves rippling through the void. The crew held their breath, waiting for the next strike. But they had survived, this time. The Aurora had proven its resilience, and the crew had once again shown the Solith Empire that they could not be so easily defeated. The turning point had arrived. "We're not done yet. Get ready," Captain Carter said, her voice steady as ever. "Let's finish this." The final push, breaking the Solith will. The Aurora had taken the first strike, danced through the chaos of battle, and delivered a crushing blow to the Solith fleet's communication. But despite the victory, the final test was yet to come. The alien flagship, the heart of the Solith Empire's war effort, was still intact and preparing for its next move. Captain Carter watched as the massive ship powered up, its main cannon now fully charged, ready to unleash its devastating energy. She knew that if they didn't take down the flagship, the aliens would regroup and find a way to retaliate. The Aurora's small size and quick maneuvering had kept it alive so far, but they had no more time to waste. "Everyone, get ready. We end this now," Carter commanded, her voice resolute. Lieutenant Marcus was already inputting new coordinates into the system. "Captain, the flagship is locking onto us with its main cannon. We won't be able to dodge that shot this time." Carter's eyes narrowed as she thought quickly. She needed a way to weaken the flagship before it fired. The Aurora couldn't outrun the blast, but it could outthink the Solith. "Set course to the left flank. We'll draw their fire and get within range to disable their weapon systems," Captain Carter said. The plan was risky, but it was their best chance. The flagship's cannon was a serious threat, but its secondary weapons were less powerful and more numerous. The Aurora shifted course, darting toward the alien flagship's blind spot. The Solith flagship was massive, and its sensors couldn't track the agile human warship as it moved into position. As they approached, the crew prepared for the final assault. Lock onto their auxiliary weapons array. Target their energy cores, Carter ordered. The flagship's main cannon was powerful, but it was its secondary energy grid that kept it operational. Disable that, and the ship would be crippled. The Aurora fired its powerful weapons, hitting the flagship's energy cores with pinpoint precision. Sparks and explosions erupted along the side of the massive alien vessel. The flagship groaned as it tried to stabilize itself, but the Aurora was relentless. "They're faltering, Captain." Lieutenant Marcus shouted. "We've hit their backup systems. Their shields are weakening." But just as the flagship began to falter, it retaliated. The main cannon, now fully charged, fired a beam of blinding light toward the Aurora. The shot cut through space like a comet, closing in on the warship with terrifying speed. "Brace for impact," Carter shouted as she instinctively threw herself to the side of the command chair, gripping the armrest. The crew held their breath, their hearts pounding as the cannon blast neared. In a split second, the Aurora banked hard to the left, narrowly dodging the deadly blast. The beam narrowly missed, grazing the side of the ship and sending shockwaves throughout the hull. The Aurora shuddered under the strain, but it held together. The crew was shaken but alive. "That was too close," Marcus said, wiping sweat from his brow. But Captain Carter didn't flinch. "We keep moving. That flagship is going down, and we're the ones to do it." The Aurora pressed forward, circling the flagship like a predator closing in on its prey. The alien ship, now badly damaged and desperate, fired erratically, but its shots were slower and less accurate. The Aurora danced through the battlefield, using its speed to its advantage, weaving between debris and disabled ships to stay out of range of the alien cannon. "Target the engine cores," Captain Carter barked. "It's time to finish this." With a final, coordinated strike, the Aurora unleashed everything it had left. The shots hit the flagship's engine cores, causing a massive explosion that rocked the enemy vessel. The Tsalith flagship, once a symbol of their power, was now a burning wreck, its engines dead and its weapons offline. The remaining Tsalith ships, no longer able to function without their flagship's command, started to fall apart. Ships turned aimlessly, retreating in confusion, their morale shattered. The Tsalith Empire had lost their greatest weapon. The Aurora had shattered their hold on the battlefield. "Status report, Lieutenant," Carter demanded. "We've done it, Captain," Marcus replied, his voice filled with disbelief. "The flagship is destroyed, and the rest of their fleet is in full retreat. They're pulling back." A cheer erupted from the crew. Despite their exhaustion and the damage to their ship, they had done it. They had taken on the might of the Tsalith Empire, and they had won. "Stay focused," Captain Carter reminded them. "We've won this battle, but there's still work to be done. We need to ensure that the rest of the fleet retreats, and we need to secure our position here. But for now, we've shown the Tsalith Empire that they cannot take humanity lightly." The crew nodded, their spirits lifted by their captain's resolve. The Aurora had survived against impossible odds, and with the destruction of the flagship, the human race had sent a clear message to the galaxy. They were not to be underestimated. As the Tsalith fleet retreated, Captain Carter took a moment to look out at the stars, knowing that this victory, though hard-earned, would mark the beginning of a new era for humanity. An era where humans would stand strong in the face of any enemy, no matter how overwhelming. "We've won today," she said quietly, "but we've only just begun." The showdown, a final test of will. The Aurora lingered in the vast emptiness of space, its hull battered but its spirit unbroken. The Tsalith Empire's flagship, once a towering force of destruction, was now a broken wreck drifting in space. The remaining alien ships, leaderless and disoriented, began to retreat, but they were not the only ones with unfinished business. The battle was not truly over. The Tsalith might have been beaten today, but Captain Carter knew there would be consequences. "We've won the day, "But don't let your guard down," Captain Carter said, her voice steady as ever, though her eyes were sharp with determination. "There are still pockets of resistance, and that Salif will regroup. We need to make sure they don't come back." The bridge crew nodded, their expressions grim but proud. They had taken down a fleet, destroyed an empire's heart, and proven that humanity's will could not be broken. However, they knew that this victory came at a high cost. The Aurora was badly damaged, and many of the crew had been injured during the battle. The strain was starting to show on their faces, but there was no time to rest. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Lieutenant Marcus reported, his voice a mix of caution and curiosity. "There's a residual energy signature coming from the wreckage of the flagship. It's faint, but it's growing stronger." Captain Carter's heart skipped a beat. She had thought the Salif Empire's command had been completely shattered, but this new development suggested otherwise. Could there be another ship hiding within the wreckage, or perhaps something worse? "Lieutenant Tessa, can you get a clearer read on that signature?" Carter asked, her eyes narrowing as she examined the tactical display. Tessa's fingers flew over the controls. "It's definitely coming from the flagship's wreckage, Captain. It's a coded signal, and it's a distress call." The realization hit the crew like a thunderclap. The battle was far from over. The Salif Empire had a backup plan, something that would make this fight even more dangerous. "It's a trap," Marcus said, his voice grim. "They're calling for reinforcements. We need to shut it down before more ships arrive." Captain Carter's mind raced. They had crippled the Salif forces here, but if they were sending reinforcements from their homeworld, it would only be a matter of time before the Aurora would be forced into another battle, one that might be beyond their control. The enemy might have lost this battle, but the war was far from over. "Lieutenant Marcus, plot the coordinates. We're heading to their homeworld before they arrive." "We don't have much time," Carter ordered. Marcus quickly began his calculations. "It's going to be a long shot, Captain. Their homeworld is on the other side of the galaxy, about a day's journey at full speed. But it's our best option." Captain Carter gave a firm nod. "Then we'll make it work. We fought this long. One last push, and we end this." Part 6.2 The Desperate Counterattack. As the Aurora pushed forward at maximum speed, its engines roaring in defiance, the crew felt a quiet determination settle over them. The last few days had been a blur of battle, but this was the final phase. The Salif Empire, having suffered a devastating blow, was desperate. They would either retreat into the darkness of space or make one last, calculated strike to prove that humanity was not as invincible as they believed. The crew prepared for what they knew would be a fight unlike any they had faced before. Their weapons were nearly depleted, and the Aurora was operating on minimal fuel. Yet, they carried something more powerful than any weapon: human will. "Captain, we're entering their system," Marcus reported, breaking the tense silence. "There it is, their homeworld. It's a heavily fortified planet, but we can't stop now." Captain Carter scanned the readings, seeing the large planetary defense grid flickering into view. "Prepare for entry. No time to waste. We're going in hot." As the Aurora dropped out of warp and entered the gravitational pull of the Salif homeworld, it was immediately greeted by a barrage of enemy fire. Planetary defense cannons, huge weapons designed to protect their world, began to target the Aurora. The space around them lit up with explosions and laser fire, but the Aurora was swift, dodging and weaving through the enemy defenses. "Captain, we've got enemy reinforcements closing in," Lieutenant Tessa reported. "They're coming from the far side of the planet." Captain Carter gritted her teeth. "They were expecting us. They want to draw us in, but we won't give them the chance." The Aurora moved in, its smaller size a significant advantage as it zipped between fire from the planetary defense and the approaching alien fleet. Every time the Aurora evaded one shot, the crew's spirits lifted. They were a team, and nothing could break them now. "Brace for impact," Marcus shouted as a blast struck the side of the Aurora. The ship lurched, but the crew held on. "We're taking fire from all directions, Captain. We need to get past that planetary defense." Captain Carter's mind was racing. If they couldn't disable the planet's defense grid, they would be sitting ducks, caught in a crossfire they couldn't survive. There was no other option now. "Marcus, lock on to their main defense station," she ordered. "We got to take it out, or we'll never make it through." The Aurora fired a direct shot, targeting the massive planetary defense station, which had been sending wave after wave of deadly blasts. The shot connected, causing a massive explosion. The defense station shuddered and began to crumble, the planetary defense grid weakening. "We're through. The planetary defense grid is down," Tessa exclaimed, her voice filled with relief. "Captain, we're clear to engage the Tsalith fleet." Part 6.3 The Last Battle. The Tsalith fleet, now fully engaged and charging toward the Aurora, had one last hope of victory. But the humans had already proven that they could turn the tide of any battle with their resourcefulness. As the two fleets clashed in a final, all-out battle, the Aurora once again demonstrated its greatest strength, its ability to adapt. "Marcus, Tessa, let's finish this," Carter said, her eyes burning with the fire of victory. The crew worked together in perfect unison, taking down enemy ships one by one. The battle was fierce and chaotic, with debris filling the void around them as both fleets exchanged fire. The Aurora darted in and out of the melee, its weapons still potent, its crew more determined than ever. Each strike from the Aurora chipped away at the alien forces, and the Tsalith began to falter. "Captain, their fleet is in disarray," Marcus reported. "We've crippled their command ships. They're breaking apart." Carter's lips curled into a tight smile. "This ends now." The Aurora fired its last salvo, an all-or-nothing attack aimed at the heart of the Tsalith command. The blast tore through the final enemy flagship, sending it spiraling into a fiery death. The remaining Tsalith ships, leaderless and broken, scattered into the void. The Aurora had won. The aftermath. As the last of the Tsalith ships fled into the unknown, the Aurora remained, floating in the silence of space. The battle was over. The Tsalith Empire had been defeated. Humanity had proven once again that against all odds, they could rise to any challenge. Captain Carter stood at the bridge, her eyes scanning the quiet expanse of space. They had survived. And more importantly, they had prevailed. "We did it," Marcus said quietly, as the crew celebrated their hard-fought victory. "We did," Carter replied, a calm smile on her face. "But this is only the beginning. The universe is vast, and humanity's place in it has only just been secured. There will be other battles, other threats. But for now, we've proven something very important. Humanity will never be defeated. We will always rise." And with that, the Aurora turned its engines toward the stars, ready to face whatever challenges the future would bring. The aftermath and human resilience. A new dawn. The Aurora drifted peacefully in the cold silence of space, surrounded by the wreckage of the once proud Tsalith fleet. The battle had been long, exhausting, and filled with danger, but now there was only the quiet hum of the warship's engines. The crew, though battered and worn, had made it through the impossible. They had stood their ground against a force far larger, far more powerful than anything humanity had ever faced. Captain Leela Carter stood alone at the bridge, her eyes fixed on the view outside the wide windows. The stars were clear, their light a reminder of what they had fought for. Human lives. The future of humanity. She had seen so many lives lost during the battle, so many comrades, yet in the end they had succeeded. The Tsalith Empire had been shattered. "Captain," Lieutenant Marcus's voice broke through the stillness. He had entered the bridge quietly, as though not wanting to disturb the moment. "I thought you'd want to know. The fleet's retreating. We've received confirmation from the command center. The Tsalith Empire has no further means to resist." Captain Carter didn't look at him, but her voice was soft yet filled with resolve. They didn't just retreat, Marcus. They've been defeated. The core of their empire is destroyed. This is the end of their conquest, and the beginning of something else for humanity. He nodded. It's incredible, Captain. No one thought it was possible, but you did. You led us through it. There was a pause, a moment of silence as Carter processed his words. The weight of it all began to settle in. They had done it. Against all odds, they had done the impossible. She could feel the immense weight of responsibility that rested on her shoulders. The responsibility to the fallen, to those who had given their lives to protect the future. You know, Carter finally said, her voice steady but reflective. This victory wasn't just about firepower or advanced technology. It was about resilience, the human spirit. No matter how many times we've been knocked down, we rise. We fight. We refuse to give in. Marcus stood silently, absorbing her words. He had always known this about humanity. He had witnessed it firsthand, and now the whole galaxy would know it too. Humanity was not just a species to be conquered, it was a force to be reckoned with. Captain, we're getting a signal from Earth. Lieutenant Tess's voice rang out from across the room. They're broadcasting a message of support and recognition for our efforts. The people are calling it the Great Human Victory. There's a massive celebration already beginning. Carter took a deep breath. They've earned it. They'd been through so much, and they deserve a moment of peace. But for us, we know the fight is never truly over. The crew gathered on the bridge as they prepared to head back to Earth, their home, the place where everything they fought for had begun. The battle had been won, but Captain Carter understood this wasn't the end of their story. The universe was vast, and with it came unknown challenges. But today, humanity had proven something that could never be erased. They would never be defeated. 7.2. The Return Home. As the Aurora slowly made its way back toward Earth, the crew allowed themselves a rare moment of rest. It had been a long and brutal campaign, and yet they had survived. The Aurora was a symbol now, a symbol of human resilience, ingenuity, and an unyielding will to survive no matter the odds. Captain, Marcus said, looking at the vast expanse of stars outside, it's hard to believe we made it. All those near misses. And now we're heading home. Carter looked at him and smiled, though it was a tired smile. We made it because we never stopped fighting. Humanity doesn't give up. We never have. As the Aurora approached Earth's orbit, the crew could see the planet, their home, glowing brightly below them. The familiar blue and green of Earth was a stark contrast to the cold, barren emptiness they had just crossed. A sense of peace settled over them, but it was a peace hard-earned. Prepare for docking, Captain Carter ordered. The crew was already ready to disembark, knowing that the moment they stepped onto Earth's surface, they would be heroes, but there would be no grand celebrations for them. Not yet. There was work to be done. There were repairs to make, families to be reunited, and a new future to build. The Aurora docked in Earth's orbital station. As the crew made their way off the ship, they were greeted with applause, cheers, and gratitude. They had saved humanity. And now, they would go home, but not without remembering those who had fought alongside them. The crew who had given their lives so that others could see this day. We did it, Lieutenant Tessa said quietly to Carter as they walked through the station, looking around at the crowd. We did, Carter agreed, her voice calm but filled with pride. But this is just the beginning. 7.3. A new era for humanity. Back on Earth, the celebrations were grand, but the reality of what had been accomplished set in as the dust began to settle. The Salif Empire was gone. The galaxy had seen humanity's true power, but it was clear that this was only a chapter in a much larger story. Captain Carter stood before a large crowd, her crew beside her, as the leaders of Earth and various allied forces congratulated them. But it was not the speeches that filled Carter's heart, it was the people. The people who had fought for their freedom, who had never given up. the same people who now stood behind them, ready for the future. "This victory is not just ours," Carter said, her voice strong as she addressed the crowd. "This victory belongs to every human who has ever fought for a better future. It belongs to the spirit of humanity, the spirit that refuses to give up, no matter the challenge. And this is only the beginning. We will face more battles. We will face more enemies. But we will stand strong, united. And together, we will always rise." The crowd erupted in applause, and as the cheers echoed through the vast hall, Captain Carter knew that humanity had just begun its true journey in the stars. They had fought for survival, for freedom, and now they would explore new horizons. The Aurora and her crew had proven that no force in the universe, no matter how mighty, could defeat the strength and will of humanity. They had shown the galaxy that humanity's legacy would not be defined by defeat, but by resilience, bravery, and the courage to rise again. And so, as the sun rose on a new era for humanity, the crew of the Aurora looked to the stars, ready for whatever came next.